Without data, Windographer is no fun at all. It's just a big gray rectangle. It becomes interesting when you get data into it, and that's the subject of this video. I'm Tom Lambert, head of the Windographer team at UL Solutions, with a quick overview of importing and exporting data in Windographer version 6. If I use file open to open a raw data file, Windographer reads and interprets that file and then shows me this configured dataset window, so I can confirm its interpretation of is a type, coordinates, time zone, or any of the properties of the data columns, name, data type, units, measurement height, and so on. I can change what needs to change, but I see no problem, so I'll just click OK. Now the data begins to come to life. The Workbook Explorer shows a few basic properties like name, period of record, a map. The summary graphs here show what you might call the signature of the dataset, patterns by height, by direction, month, and time of day. You might want to see other graphs, maybe a histogram. These displays help me to see the character of the data I just imported, but so far it's only one day of data, so let's add more. To add data to an existing dataset, use File Append. Here I've got a folder full of data files, one per day, and I'm going to select all of them, except the first, which we already opened. Now it will work its way through that set of files. And on the first one, it will confirm how I want to map the new data into the existing data columns and how to resolve any conflicts that might arise. Look up appending in the help file for much more information about appending data. We have 2 months of data now, so some patterns start to emerge. And actually, we can see there's something wrong because we've got negative wind speeds here. The time series window might clarify. Okay, the data logger looks like it's reporting like -999 or something for this interval here and here, which probably means no data, invalid data. I'm going to run my basic QC workflow to take care of that. A workflow is a sequence of steps you can configure to automate repetitive tasks. And this workflow just executes some flag rules to flag crazy values. Okay, so that looks better now. We've filtered out that invalid data so you can see the typical patterns that we can expect. That's one data set, one Met tower, but this project has 3 Met towers within a few kilometers of each other. So I want to add the other 2 to my workbook. One way to do that is to click this plus button, and I'll go to the second folder holding the files from the second Met tower, and I'll select them all. I don't want to create 56 new data sets, and I don't want to add to the existing data set. I want to put all 56 of these little data files into a single new data set, so I'll choose that option. Now, on opening the first of those text files, it shows me the same configure window we saw before. Everything looks fine, so I'll click OK. And on opening the second of those text files, it asks me to confirm the append settings, just like I did before. And again, all is well, so I'll click OK. And again, it chews through that set of files, and now I have a second data set. I'll just drag and drop this whole third data set and do the same routine. And there's my third data set. And since I'm seeing the same quality control problems in these data sets, I'm going to run my basic QC workflow once again. And that cleans up the data. So that's the process of importing raw data files. Let's take a look at one of those files we just opened. So it's just a text file with some header information, latitude, longitude, and such, and then some time series data. When I opened this file, Windographer didn't ask me on which line the time series data begins, or what date format the timestamps use, or which data columns contain speed, direction, temperature, or something else, or at what height each was measured. It didn't ask me to provide any of that information. It just did its best to interpret the file automatically. Windographer is pretty good at that. If you use it, hopefully you found it's pretty good at that interpretation process. I love when it works, but it doesn't always work. It's not perfect. And hey, some data file formats are really difficult to interpret, or they leave out important information like time zone or lat long or measurement height or something. If Windographer needs help to interpret a data file, you can help it. You could write a little XML file called a whiz file and stick it in the folder with the data file to provide supplemental information when Windographer opens that data file. This is a big topic, and all I'm going to do here is to point to a big help article that explains that big topic. These examples show how to specify timestamp meaning, time zone, column properties, and so on. A whiz file provides additional information that's not in the data file, or maybe it's there, but it's not in a format that Windographer can interpret. So the info in the whiz file supplements the info in the data file. You never have to use whiz files, but you might find them helpful in some situations. But if Windographer doesn't read some data file that you think it should read, please send us that file or some piece of it or some modified version of it or something, and we'll use it to improve the import logic. Now, I'm going to execute a different workflow, my reconstruction workflow, to reconstruct across datasets. That uses correlation across data sets and observe patterns within each data set to fill gaps and even extend the shorter data sets to the longest period of record. I could have made any change there. I just want to point out that the history window shows the whole story of these data sets, every change that has happened to each of them. If I choose the second mast, I see that this Tom guy imported some data at this time and then appended some more, executed some flag rules, and then reconstructed. And when I save this workbook, this group of data sets, to a Windog file, that Windog file will contain that history information. So I can close and reopen that Windog file. It could be days or months later when I reopen it. And the history window will still show me all the stages of this dataset's development. And if I regret any of them, I can undo as many as I want to step back to an earlier stage. Okay, let's talk exporting. As we just saw, the normal way to save data in Windographer is just file save or file save as. That writes a Windog file, a compressed binary file that contains multiple data sets, history, flagged segments, long-term adjustments, the whole works. But only Windographer can read Windog files. If you need to export data to Openwind or Excel or some other software, then go to File, Export Data. It provides all of these formats, some generic, some for specific software, some for specific countries. This generic time series format lets you choose the date format, delimit with commas or tabs or whatever you want. You can even export flag status along with the numbers if you want to. The combined format is similar, but it can span multiple data sets. The tab file format is tailored for the WASP software. The Openwind format is tailored for Openwind, and so on. This Windographer tab exports a Windog file, but here I can exclude certain data sets or exclude the history for when you don't want to divulge that to your client or you just want a smaller file. The JSON tab exports the IEA task 43 Wind data model to a JSON file, and you can import such a file, by the way, by dragging and dropping it into the Windographer main window. And finally, even outside of the export data window, you have lots of opportunities to export from tables and graphs. Right-click on any graph to export either the image of the graph or the data behind the graph, or right-click on any table to export to text or to HTML. All right, that's my quick overview of importing and exporting in Windographer 6. Thank you for watching.